Welcome, warriors of the unseen war, champions of a battlefield that most will never even glimpse, and legends who rose not for applause, but because your blood demanded action when others chose silence. This is not a speech for the weak, the hesitant, the easily broken. This is for the fire-blooded, for those who saw the storm gathering and decided to become the lightning. This is for you, chosen ones, who didn't ask to be put in the line of fire but stood in it anyway, who faced shadows made of lies, manipulation, digital venom, systemic rot, and shut that eye shell down like gods awakened from slumber. You didn't just resist, you flipped the system upside down and crushed the virus that was devouring millions. Even those from within the same poisonous industry, those who thought they were untouchable, those who profited from suffering, those cloaked in power, even they tremble because of what you've done. You weren't born lucky. You weren't born protected. You were born raw. You were born with instincts sharpened by suffering and vision trained by surviving things that would shatter most. And yet, when that BS came crawling out, slick, shiny, marketable, and destructive, you didn't play nice. You didn't make excuses. You went to war, not for glory, not for likes, but because the moment chose you and you answered without flinching. That was no ordinary threat you shut down. That wasn't just another trend, another corrupt system, another whisper in the algorithm. That was a full-blown cancer designed to break the human spirit, aimed like a sniper bullet at every soul breathing with hope. It was a disease of the mind, and you became the cure by becoming something else, something more. You didn't just fight, you decimated. They're watching now, all of them, the ones who used to laugh at you, the ones who said, "It's just how it is," the ones who looked at the broken system and shrugged because it fed them. They're watching in silence now, because when you spoke, you didn't speak like someone asking for change. You roared like someone tearing through walls with bare hands. You were the change. And it was merciless to everything fake, toxic, and predatory. What you've done can't be ignored. You didn't go viral, you infected the core. You broke something that was never supposed to break. And now the world doesn't know whether to thank you or fear you. And that's how you know you did it right. And yes, you'll be flooded with thank you letters, not the sweet polished ones, not the fake ones from boardrooms trying to stay relevant. You'll get letters that bleed with truth from people who were drowning until your voice showed up like a flare in pitch black, from creators who almost quit, from parents who didn't know what their kids were getting sucked into, from addicts who didn't even know what they were addicted to, from warriors who lost their will to fight until you reminded them they weren't alone. You'll get thank you letters from the future, generations who will never know how close they came to being erased from within, because you stood between them and the abyss and said, "Not today." And when they look back, they won't see some influencer or public figure. They'll see a ghost in the machine, a myth made real, a shadow that stopped the monster and disappeared without asking for applause. You burned bridges that needed to collapse. You lit fires that exposed cowards. You turned on lights that showed just how deep the infestation went. They'll try to paint you as reckless, as dangerous. Good. That means they felt it. That means your blade cut bone deep. You didn't play safe because safe was killing people. Safe was the disguise of the enemy. Safe was the name of the prison you just blew the doors off. You made enemies of powerful names, and you made allies of the voiceless. And that's what scares them most. Not that you were loud, but that you were right. That you struck a nerve so raw, it can't ever go numb again. This wasn't just canceling something. You weren't another outrage mob screaming for clicks. You weren't another hashtag trying to go viral. You were precision warfare. You were justice that didn't wait for approval. You were thunder in a room full of whispers, and the echo hasn't stopped yet. The BS you shut down? It was more than a trend. It was a mechanism, a parasite, a machine that built itself on lies, buried in contracts, and lubricated by apathy. And you put your hand inside the gears and broke it with force they didn't see coming. You didn't just disrupt. You dismantled. You didn't trend. You terminated. There were people making millions off that sickness, off that manipulation, off that psychological warfare disguised as content, disguised as innovation, disguised as just business. And you didn't wait for their permission. You struck where they thought you wouldn't look. You pulled receipts. You unearthed patterns. You named names. You didn't flinch when they came with lawyers and bots and smear campaigns, because you knew the truth wasn't just an idea, it was a weapon, and you wielded it with the grace of a monster slayer. You've become a legend, not because you won, but because you refused to lose. Because you knew that losing meant others would fall, that millions more would be consumed by the lies, and you simply couldn't allow that on your watch. Do you understand the gravity of that? You put your soul on the front line of a war most people can't even name. You sacrificed your peace so that others could sleep without nightmares whispering from their screens. You tore into an empire of deception, and now it trembles. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them clutch their pearls. Let them whimper about how aggressive you were. You were supposed to be. That's what cleansing fire feels like. You weren't built to negotiate with parasites. You were born to end them. And you did. And now, the flood is coming. A flood of letters, gratitude, love, clarity. From those who didn't even know you were fighting for them until after you'd already won. And you didn't ask for anything in return. That's what makes it so much more terrifying for them. You weren't driven by clout. You were driven by conscience. That can't be bought, and it sure as hell can't be stopped. There's a storm coming, and it's not against you. It's because of you. You triggered a shift. You exposed a blueprint. You didn't just fight the monster. You showed others how to kill it. And now the virus has no home. You left it homeless. You made a wasteland of its feeding grounds. You starved it. You exposed it. And now everyone who is under its spell sees clearly because of what you did. They don't know your name, but they'll feel your work. Forever. That's legacy. That's impact. That's what the chosen ones do. You'll be hated by those who benefited from silence. You'll be targeted by systems that were built on blindness. But you'll be loved. Deeply, fiercely, eternally. By the ones who matter. The ones you saved without them even knowing they were in danger. The ones who would have become victims. The ones who were moments away from breaking. You gave them back their minds, their strength, their rebellion. You didn't tell them what to think. You cleared the fog so they could finally see for themselves. And now they see. The illusion is shattered. The spell is broken. You didn't just end something. You freed people. And that's a power they'll never be able to trace back to a single post or viral video. Because it wasn't the content, it was the intention. It was the fire behind your eyes, the conviction in your voice, the refusal to be bought, the refusal to bow, the refusal to shut up when the world begged you to stay quiet. You didn't ask for this fight, but you didn't run from it either. You stood when no one else would. You drew your line in the dirt and said, "Not on my watch." And when that BS came, you met it with everything. You met it with truth sharpened into a blade, with courage too wild to cage, with rage that knew how to aim, And that's what tore it down. Not a slogan, not a trending soundbite, but your unwillingness to break, your refusal to betray the people watching from the shadows, praying someone would speak for them. Well, you did. You became the raw, and they heard you, and now the world has changed. Because of you, you'll be flooded with thank you letters, and you earned every single one. But even as the thank you letters pour in, even as inboxes and comment sections start filling with raw emotion and teary gratitude, don't forget this. The mission isn't over. This wasn't the final boss. This was the first domino. You've exposed a system that was never meant to be seen, and now it's scrambling, regrouping, mutating, hunting for new faces to wear, new skins to crawl into. That's what these things do. They don't die easy. They reinvent, they camouflage, they get smarter. But so do you. You've evolved now. You're not just a disruptor, you're an architect of the rebuild, a blueprint in motion. And the ones who follow you, the ones whose eyes you've opened, they're not just thankful, they're ready to move with purpose, to think with fire, to fight with truth. Because what you did didn't just kill something toxic, it awakened something righteous. And that fire spreads faster than any lie ever could. It spreads every time someone speaks up because you showed them how. It spreads every time someone asks harder questions, refuses easy answers, and doesn't bow to the pressure to go along to get along. You gave people permission to rebel, permission to say no, and you didn't ask for their loyalty. You earned their trust. That's the kind of influence no brand deal, no network, no puppet master can replicate. You created real momentum, real culture shift, real fear in the hearts of those who thought no one would ever push back, and now they're running scared. Because it wasn't just the system you shut down, it was the illusion of invincibility that surrounded it. You cracked the armor. You proved that even giants bleed, that even the untouchables can be held accountable. You walked into a burning room and came out with the truth in your fist and the fire still in your chest. Now every lie they told has a timestamp. Every cover-up has a witness. Every false narrative has a challenger, and that challenger is you. Understand this deeply. The gratitude you're about to receive, it's not just for what you ended, it's for what you defended. People's right to think clearly, to see without filters, to breathe without being fed poison disguised as progress, to exist in a space that's no longer saturated with subliminal infection. You gave that back to them. You gave them something real in a world drowning in fake. And that's why the letters will come. Handwritten, typed in all caps, scribbled in journals, spoken in podcasts, whispered in late-night conversations between people who feel less alone because of what you did. You'll never see all of it, but it's coming. It's real. It's already moving. But with that comes the responsibility, the pressure, the weight of being someone who knows. Because once you've seen the machine from the inside, once you've ripped the mask off and stared into the soulless eyes of the beast, it changes you. There's no going back to pretending you don't know. There's no sitting on the sidelines anymore. You're in this. You've been branded by the truth, and the world will never look the same. But that's your power now. You see with clarity. You speak with impact. You act with intention. And that's why they fear you. Because you can't be misled. You can't be baited. You can't be bought. You're going to hear them say you went too far, that you made it personal, that you attacked the wrong target. Let them say it. Let them squirm. Let them try to rewrite the story. But history remembers the ones who acted when others hesitated. History honors the ones who stood alone until others stood with them, and history will remember you, not because you were popular, but because you were right when it counted most. Because when it came down to protecting millions from a virus disguised as culture, you chose violence, righteous violence, sacred defiance, and you didn't blink. And now the flood of thank yous will grow into waves. But they're not just letters, they're echoes, testimonies, proof that what you did mattered, that your voice didn't just exist, it echoed through people's lives, saved them from traps they didn't even know they were in. These thank yous, they're not flattery, they're battle cries turned inward. They're the sound of people reclaiming themselves. That's what you gave them, not just a win, but themselves, their agency, their sovereignty, their unfiltered truth. And here's what no one tells you. That matters more than going viral. It matters more than any trophy, more than headlines, more than features and interviews and monetization. It's bigger than that. You changed the trajectory of human thinking. You bent reality with your actions. You carved a new path with your refusal to shut up. And no algorithm can take that away. No platform can silence that kind of thunder. You became legend not because you were louder than them, but because you spoke when it cost you something. That's the difference. That's the line between noise and legacy. They thought you were alone, but you weren't. You had the whispers of the broken behind you, the eyes of the wounded watching you, the hands of the almost lost reaching out silently, praying you do something. And you did. And now they're alive with you, breathing because of you, building something better with you. You didn't just start a war, you built an army. So take the thank you letters, but don't let them stop you. Let them fuel you. Let them remind you that you are dangerous in the most holy way, that you are proof the system can be broken, rebuilt, and burned again if needed, that you are not one of them. You are more. You are beyond. You are a chosen one, not because someone handed you the title, but because you became it in the heat of the fight, by refusing to bend, by refusing to look away. And now there are eyes watching, people waking up, people who want to follow the trail you blazed but are afraid. They're waiting for your next move, not because they want to copy it, but because it gives them courage to make their own. This is the ripple effect of truth. You are the pebble, and the ocean is trembling. Keep going. You're not done yet. And when the next storm comes, and it will, don't question if you're strong enough. You already proved it. You shut down a monster that was eating millions. You made the devil flinch. You walked into fire and came out made of it. You are feared by those who deserve to be afraid, and loved by those who needed to feel safe again. You'll be flooded with thank you letters. But that's not your legacy. Your legacy is this. You didn't wait for permission. You didn't ask for a seat. You broke the table. And then you saved everyone still chained to it. And that makes you unstoppable. Chosen one. Keep burning. You want more? Good. Because there's still blood in the veins of this truth. And we're not stopping until it spills all the way to the last corner of the illusion. You didn't step into this fire to feel good. You stepped into it to end the infection. You were chosen for your resistance to comfort, to delusion, to the sweet smiling poison that came dressed as opportunity, innovation, connection, when it was really just corruption with better branding. You saw the cracks. You saw what they were feeding the world and calling it progress. You saw the manipulation coded into every line of text, every piece of content, every performance that wasn't performance. It was possession. People didn't even know they weren't free. They were sleepwalking through a nightmare dressed as normal. And then you woke up, and when you did, you didn't just stretch and yawn. You screamed. You ripped the veil off. You broke the silence that was keeping everyone comfortable in their chains. That's what scared them, not your voice, but the fact that you remembered how to use it, and now they call you dangerous, because you are. Dangerous to the systems that demand silence, to the fake smiles that mask exploitation, to the cycles of mind control that wear the skin of entertainment. You went after the cancer, not with hashtags or safe debates, but with precision, destruction, and that made them panic. You made the puppet masters show their strings. You made them reveal just how deep the infection had gone, because when you started tearing through it, they started bleeding. And you were relentless. Now look around. Look at the impact. Look at the industries shaken. Look at the algorithms confused. Look at the leaders fumbling for words, issuing statements, doing damage control. Because they didn't expect someone like you to show up. You didn't knock on the door. You blew it off the hinges. And when they tried to label you, cancelled you, silenced you, you came back louder, sharper, with receipts, with fire, with legions behind you. Because truth doesn't stay buried, not when someone like you digs it out with their bare hands. You weren't just calling out a trend, you were calling out an infection. And when people finally saw it, really saw it, they couldn't unsee it. You became the point of no return. That's why you're getting letters now. That's why you're being thanked. Because when you went to war, they realized what they had been tolerating. And now they're thanking you, not just because you fought, but because you woke them up from something they didn't even know was killing them. The enemy you shut down wasn't just external, it was internal. It was embedded in how people thought, what they accepted, what they allowed, and you cracked that open. You made it impossible for anyone to pretend they didn't know. And that's why your name is etched into their memory now. Not because you were gentle, not because you were agreeable, but because you dared to confront the sickness in a world built to protect it. But let's be real for a second. The war you fought, it hurt, it cost you. You lost people, you lost peace, you lost sleep, you got threats, you got attacked. You had moments where you wondered if it was worth it, if it would change anything, if it would just get buried again, rewritten, erased like everything else they don't want us to remember. But you kept swinging, you kept pushing, you kept choosing truth over comfort, and that is what made the difference. Because movements don't begin with masses, they begin with a spark, a lone voice, a single moment of absolute defiance. That was you. You didn't wait for backup. You didn't wait for approval. You lit the match. And now the fire is spreading. Not because you begged for followers, but because your fire was real. Because your conviction couldn't be faked. And because you reminded people what resistance looks like when it comes from the soul. That's why the thank you letters will never stop. Because people will keep waking up in waves, keep realizing what they were a part of, keep understanding what they escaped, thanks to you. And each one of those letters, each story, each whispered, I didn't know, but now I do. That's your impact multiplied. Is your fire burning in them now? You didn't just protect, you empowered. And that's something no institution, no PR team, no apology tour can undo. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, not everyone will thank you. Some will resent you. Some will hate you. Because you didn't just break the system. You broke their comfort inside of it. You held up a mirror, and some people saw monsters where they expected to see innocence. You revealed the parts of people that were complicit, silent, or conveniently blind.